As the calendar gets set to turn to August, anticipation continues to grow across the country regarding the return of athletics from professional sports clear down to the youth level. Those discussions continue on the collegiate front, particularly the football landscape, where multiple teams and conferences across the nation have postponed or even canceled their fall seasons. The Frontier Conference lost its 3 out-of-state teams, College of Idaho, Eastern and Southern Oregon, when their parent conference, the Cascade Collegiate Conference, announced it would delay all fall sports until at least November 1st. Frontier Conference Commissioner Kent Paulson told MTN Sports he understood and respected that decision, which ultimately sent the league's 5 remaining football schools back to the drawing board to create a new schedule. And while those 5 teams, as well as the other Frontier Conference fall season varsity sports, plan to continue their seasons, uncertainty remains with the uptick of COVID-19 cases in Montana. One option often discussed is playing in front of limited or even no fans, though that would create a detrimental financial impact on the schools in the league.
We need the spectators to come through the turnstile. We can't operate financially at our level. We don't have the TV contract, although we get an occasional TV game, certainly, and we get the great coverage from our news outlets. We have webcasting, but at the end of the day, we need our good fans. And so that certainly is a consideration, in terms of the whole scope of our businesses, is that how does this all plug in and how does this work together? We're very cognizant of that. Again, you go back to what is the deciding factor, and the deciding factor is safety, and what are the obstacles. If more of them start to become insurmountable, that has to affect your decision. We're not going to necessarily do what another conference, in the area is going to do.
While many other schools and leagues have committed to the, quote, play-on mentality, others are joining the Cascade in delaying seasons to a later date in hopes of the coronavirus pandemic lessening along the way. One other option, call it the worst-case scenario, the one many officials prefer not to discuss, is the complete cancellation of all sports, similar to the shutdowns that took place last spring. While it's certainly the last resort, Paulson understands the possibility as well as the disastrous results it would have from a financial standing.
Devastating, yeah, totally devastating. I mean, schools that were in financial difficulty even before COVID, that to me would be devastating. I just don't see. I mean, it would be like a restaurant saying, could you make it a year without any customers? I just think that at some point you reach that point of no return. And so that piece would be very detrimental to schools our size. We don't have Ivy League endowments. We don't have Power 5 television revenues. We are who we are. We're darn proud of it. We put out a wonderful product. I'm a product of that small college, and we all know many people that are. You're an MSUB guy. And by the way, come on, get the.
I know. Krista, watching.
But anyway, it's just really imperative. It's so important. And go back to what you talked about earlier, communities. Those schools are a cornerstone of their economy.
Many universities are already feeling the financial effects of the novel virus, with multiple schools announcing the discontinuation of varsity programs as a result. Stanford recently announced it would cut 11 varsity programs, while the University of Connecticut previously said it would drop 4 programs from its offerings. Paulson admits he can't speak for the Frontier Conference schools directly, but says he hasn't heard of similar discussions amongst his league.
We've actually seen the addition of programs. We did lose women's hockey at the University of Providence. Can't say that was directly tied to the COVID situation, but across the NAI world, we've continued to see the growth and the emergence of various sports. And so it really hasn't detoured schools from continuing in their quest to develop platforms in which to attract students. Esports, good example. I mean, when I first heard that, I was like, "Ooh, that's a bit of a stretch." And man, live, that's taken off like wildfire. We in our conference, we have some schools that have really taken that to the next level. And so Overall, really haven't seen that.
The attention remains focused on the upcoming decisions at every level, with the mentality seemingly split over which decision would be best. Paulson remains optimistic his league can find ways to safely conduct athletic events and hopes other schools and leagues across the country can do the same.
As one person said, you can have academics and not have the athletics, but you cannot have the athletics without the academics. The kids, the real deciding factor is, can we safely bring our kids back on campus? And then that's the launching point then for your athletics.
Clock's ticking, anticipation's growing. Buckle up, everyone. Richie Melby, MTN Sports.